Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Git Good at OpenRCT2. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a realistic looking laydown coaster. Now this coaster is based on the older models of the Vekoma Flying Dutchman coaster, so that's what I'm going to try to build. Now there have only been two different models of this build. There was a prototype, I believe around 800 meters, and there was a slightly longer model that was sold to two parks as well. So yeah, I'll just show you how you could make a coaster like this, that if you want to go for realism. Now, the prototype of this coaster just had a single station, and the model that was later sold actually had a dual loading station. So yeah, since this is a flying type coaster, yeah, those don't really work well, or these elements don't really work well if you put them on a different kind of coaster. So I wouldn't actually bother with trying to make the dual loading station actually functional. So if you want it, you can just make it. Yeah, I would just make one and yeah, not actually bother with trying to make it functional. So you could do just like this. And let's continue a track here. Here we have here we'll have the other part of the station. Now disable clearance checks just so you can continue building like this. Alright, you could do something like this. So this is what a dual loading station would look like. You could have the entrance, for example, be in the middle here. It's probably the guests would queue here in the middle and then would be guided to the station where a train is unloading. So probably you'll also want an exit on both sides, or you could have it in the middle. Probably best to have an exit on both sides and just connect it up here somewhere. Now I'll just have the queue come from up here. And there you could yeah, have it connect somewhere in a nice way. The top part of the queue will probably be hidden in the building. But this is just how you could do it. Or you could have it below the station as well. It's really up to you. Now, if you want to make this part look convincing, well, obviously we'll have to have the track in the right color. But yeah, if you want to have a switch track that looks convincing, I will just select some of these track pieces and hide them. So I'll hide this one, and I'll hide, let's hide this one. No, we'll want to have this part where they're connected hidden. Maybe also this part here in the middle. Alright, now if you want to make a nice looking switch track that maybe could work, we'll want some inverted track here. For that I'm going to use the compact inverted coaster, and I'll just make an S-bend here. Now this does look a little bit messy as of now, but it will look better later, I promise. So I'll just hide the support in this part. And I don't need this part of the S-bend, I only want these parts of the S-bend. Alright, so you can now see some inverted track under this track here. So how would this work? Well, this piece of track would actually rotate upside down, and then this track that's now here on the bottom will be on top, and it would connect to this part of the track here. So that's just how these rotating switch tracks work. And Vekoma really used to like putting those on their coasters. I've seen them on quite a few coasters that I have ridden. Now if you want to, you can put it a bit lower even, and that will just make it a bit more visible. And if you really want, you could even yeah, make a little extension here. Not really sure if this looks the best, but Typically these rotating track switches are connected to some kind of structure to hold them up, or some kind of motor. I'm just going to do something silly here, but you could, for example, do something like this, and also connect it like that on this side. And yeah, just do something like this. It's up to you how you want this to look, but right now I think this switch track here does look like something that could be functional. And then obviously on this side you'd have to build one of these as well. This is all if you want to have a dual loading station. So 2 of the models of this coaster that existed actually had a dual loading station. Mostly because the loading times for these coasters can be quite long. Alright, something else which I saw in the coasters that I checked was well, I didn't really get a clear look at how the transfer track worked, but I did see that the transfer track was actually somewhere next to the lift hill. So somewhere over here I saw a curved track which just led to a piece of track which was right next to the lift hill here. And on the prototype model there was simply another switch track right over here, which led to a set of brakes here. That would be right next to the lift hill. Yeah, it can just be very simple. You could make another one of these right over here. But yeah, for now I'm not going to bother with making another one of these switch tracks here. We're here to build a realistic looking laydown coaster. So I'm just going to continue building the lift hill here. Alright, now I've made a lift hill here. Didn't make it too high. The layouts for these coasters are typically pretty short, and we don't want it to have too much speed. So yeah, just made a lift hill, and from the lift hill just a shallow drop downwards. So the guests are still on their backs here on the lift hill for these coaster. And what they typically do is just do a bit of a curve, and usually somewhere at the end or of that curve the cars flip around, so the guests are actually below the track. So right now I'm just going to do an inline twist here. I think I'll do it to the right, and from there the guests continue on in a lying position. Maybe we can make it a bit smaller. So yeah, sadly there's no bank drops for this coaster type, but so we'll just use a normal one. So yeah, guests are on their backs here. Now in the real version of this coaster, there would in the longer model there would now be an sort of like an overbanked turn. So probably the best way to emulate that is just with a steep hill like this. Could even go a little bit banked here, just to make it a little bit more convincing. And let's just drop down here again. By the way, we can also do this simulation mode in OpenRCT2. Now I think 6 vehicles for a train for this coaster is probably enough. These trains are pretty long. I didn't actually check how many cars the original model had, but I think this looks appropriate for this coaster type. So I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. Now here we see it just go through this slow roll, and here it goes into this first overbanked turn. But yeah, you definitely want guests to be on there below the track, especially for the more intense parts of the ride. So the parts where guests are lying on their backs are usually pretty tame compared to the parts where the guests are below the track. So you definitely don't want the guests to do anything crazy while they're on their backs. It's a really awkward position for the guests to be riding in. So yeah, probably best to keep that in mind as you're building one of these coasters. Alright, an element which these coasters always have is a vertical loop, well, which their older Flying Dutchman coasters always have. Yes, yeah. So over here, I'm just going to do a bank turn. Now, these vertical loops, they cannot be done in the inverted position, so the guests have to be lying on their backs. So usually, what these coasters do is here we have a curve, and simply before we go into the section with the vertical loop, there's an inline twist. Now, by the way, if you're doing a banked turn, it's always nicest if you roll in the other direction. For example, right now here, well, yeah, if you keep, let's say, if you have a turn to the right, after that it looks nicest to do an inline twist to the left. That's what I mean. If you have a curve to the right here, you have to stop the banking here. Then if you do an inline twist to the right, yeah, it just looks like there's this awkward kink in the track. So yeah, I prefer to roll in the other direction, but it's up to you what you like best. And even though, even if you do that, actually, if you continue this curve to the right, you will still have this kink in the track again if you immediately continue banking. So maybe I'll just carry on straight here for a bit. Or we could even just go down like this. But yeah, here we have a section where the guests are on their backs again. Again, I'll make this section quite tame. Alright, and then this would be a good spot to do the vertical loop. Like that. Maybe it's even a bit low compared to the rest of the track, but it's probably fine. If you find out it generates a bit too much G-force and the intensity becomes too high, yeah, just make it a bit higher, or let the trains go through the vertical loop a bit slower. Now, sometimes I would make an inline twist here directly at the bottom and just pretend it's more drawn out, but it's probably better to just go up like this and do the roll higher up. Right here we can see it go through the loop. I think that's really a decent speed. Alright, I'll just continue the track a little bit more until finally we can do a last element and then head into the brake run. Alright, typically near the end these coasters have some kind of roll. So you could do that in several ways. You could either use the half corkscrews. Oh wait, let's continue them on. Like this. And then have another one. Not really sure if it actually will make them through it. But yeah, if you do these corkscrews, you'll want it to you'll want the guests to be on their backs here. Like this. And then after that, well, in this case, I probably wouldn't even have to return to a flying position, since the station, of course, is also in the laying position. Or if you don't want to do it like that, you can also just do the roll with inline twists. Now the station is a little bit, yeah, in an awkward spot right now, which actually causes the layout to be quite spread out. You could probably try to make it more compact. But, of course, this is just an example of how you could do it. And something else which you could do, of course, is just make a few inline twists here near the end. Something like that could also work. Anyway, I'm just going to play around a bit here, see if I can make a nice layout here with some corkscrews. And then after that, well, actually, first I'll just start with doing a little bit of a brake run here. Now, of course, if you want the transfer track at the brake run, that's also possible. But the real ones, I will have them over here next to the chain lift. Alright, I've added some block breaks here at the end. So now the train will actually just wait here before this train is left, before it enters the station. Now obviously this doesn't really make sense that it waits here. If we would have a functioning dual station. But yeah, it may be a little bit tricky to actually get a dual station to work. So yeah, if you want to use this, that's up to you. You could also make it so that the waiting time is enough that the train never really has to wait over here. As you can see, I just finished the layout here with an inline twist because I didn't really have space here anymore. But of course you can also do corkscrews or some other inversion. But yeah, this is simply what a typical Flying Dutchman layout could or would look like if Vekoma still made these. But yeah, this is just one example of how you could make one like this. Most important things to remember are you'll want to have the more intense and fast sections with the guests below the track, like you can see over here. And yeah, inversions like the vertical loop and the corkscrew, obviously the guests will have to be on their back there. Probably best to roll them around. Let's say on real laydown coasters, the roll would happen somewhere on top of a hill. Then it would gently be guided into the inversion, and then it would gently roll out of it again. Same for corkscrews. Yeah, it's typically done the same way. Of course, the lift hill, the station, and the brake run are all done with the guests riding on their backs. Now, one more trick I can show you is if you want to have catwalks for the lift hill of the coaster, you can use multi-dimension coaster track. So probably easiest to just start building over here, and we'll enable the lift hill. But there you have it. You have a little catwalk for this coaster. You could even extend it to the ground if you want to. Not necessary, but I think that looks pretty cool. You could paint it in the same color as the track. You see a little bit of glitching going on here. If you want to prevent that, you can actually make the track pieces of the laydown coaster itself invisible. So let's do that for a few of these track pieces. So here we have selected the laydown coaster. Just press this and then I think it looks pretty nice. So I like having catwalks for my coaster. It's just a really simple trick that you can do. I do recommend building in the reverse direction, like I showed here. So it's to prevent that these tracks will actually merge with each other, and that will make building quite annoying. Alright, well, I cannot wait to see what kind of layouts you guys can come up with. And it would be really fun if you could show your designs on my Discord server. You can find the link in the video description. Alright, that was going to be all for this tutorial. Hope it's useful for you, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.